$200? Oh, I'll take it.
My parents really support me in my career. Is your dad supportive of you?
If you give him enough beer and a pair of earplugs and then tell him that he can be in another room.
No.
The Simpsons have been a staple of American television for as long as I can remember, and I'm sure that's a statement that can be said by a lot of people, especially in my generation. Who else remembers spending their Sunday nights sitting in the living room, seated on the couch for one last bastion of freedom of the weekend, before going off to the terrible school day that was looming over us? The Simpsons have been a part of culture and a part of many people's lives, and to this day they still continue. And as far as the internet recalls, there have been tons of video essays talking about how the Simpsons have died, how the Simpsons have become great again, and how the Simpsons are insert adjectives here so people can get clicks on their videos. I suppose I'm no better. You're watching a video talking about how the Simpsons and how I fell out of love with the series. But I want to make something clear. This isn't me saying that the Simpsons are bad nowadays. This isn't me going, oh, the Simpsons seasons 3 through 8 are the only good seasons. Nah, there are some episodes that in modern time I do come to appreciate on some level or another, but as of late, those aren't exactly enough for me to keep my love of the series. And I'm not here to convince you that the show is good or bad. I'm merely here to tell you how I'm growing past my love of The Simpsons. Here we go. I'm not going to waste your time explaining what The Simpsons are, but I'm rather going to tell you straight up why I've fallen out of love with it. And the best way to start off is to reference a quote talking about one of the most infamous episodes, The Principal and the Pauper, where the voice of Seymour Skinner, Harry Shearer, voiced his disapproval.
You're taking something that an audience has built 8 or 9 years of investment in and just tossed it in the trash can for no good reason. For a story that we've done before with other characters. It's so arbitrary and gratuitous, and it's disrespectful to the audience.
And later on, in a December 2006 interview, Shearer added that with the following.
Now the writers refuse to talk about it. They realize it was a horrible mistake. They never mention it. It's like they're punishing the audience for paying attention.
Now, there's been debate on whether or not the episode in question, The Principal and the Pauper, is the make it or break it episode for Simpson fans. That isn't really the discussion that I'm interested in having here. Rather, it's the sentiment that Shearer pointed out in these two quotes that I believe are why I and a number of other people have fallen out of love for the show. When it comes to media and the characters within it, we as the audience love to make connections with these fictional people. We grow alongside them, we watch them stumble, we see into their lives and can relate to the troubles they go through because we can simultaneously see ourselves in those situations. Granted, I doubt most of us meet tons of celebrities, go into space, or even get into half the stuff the Simpsons get into, but it's because of that broad brushstrokes that the Simpsons can resonate with a lot of people. But my friends, that is a double-edged sword.
If you give him enough beer and a pair of earplugs and then tell him that he can be...
I started this video off with a couple clips. One where guest star Billie Eilish is asking Lisa about if her father supports her music, with her saying no. Even though there are plenty of times where Homer does go out of his way to not only support her music, but other aspects of Lisa's interests. Now, I'm sure as I'm saying this, there are people out there who are going to point out the numerous times that Homer has told Lisa to stop that musical racket, and others pointing out times that Homer has gone out of his way to support Lisa's music, like giving up his air conditioner fund twice. I'm gonna tell you right now that I don't care, because that's not the point I'm getting at. When we watch characters, we get invested into their pasts. We want to learn more about them, and see how far they've come. And when you get moments like the one with Lisa, something clicks in my brain, something telling me that isn't right. And I get it. The Simpsons have always played fast and loose with their continuity. It's why last year when the season 33 opener, Star of the Backstage, basically remade Homer and Marge's past again so they could make a musical about the Y2K scare of the time, effectively transplanting the two's past from the 70s to the 90s. I understand the viewpoint that caring about continuity of a cartoon is silly, especially one that's more episodic like The Simpsons, where most episodes are made to be self-contained story beats that you can watch in any order. But here's the issue with that line of thinking, at least for me. When you do something like that, you need to still have an established past for the characters to explain how they are and how they act. And when those pasts are constantly changing by the writers, it tends to ignore the very strong characterization moments. It ties back to the quote I brought up with Shearer, where we toss away the elements of the characters for seemingly no reason, and it adds up. Every time it happens, you essentially change the characters just for cheap jokes. It feels like, why should I keep watching this show? They're just gonna keep doing this. It's superficial. And maybe it's because I'm getting older, since I did grow up alongside The Simpsons, that I want to see the show actually acknowledge these moments that are ingrained into my brain ever since my formative years. How Bart broke down and was worried that he would be stuck in the same grade. How Homer helped Barney get through his alcoholism so they could save Bart and Lisa. And it's not like there haven't been events that have stuck in the show. Maude and Edna are still dead. Lisa's a vegetarian. Thanks, Paul McCartney. But they'll arbitrarily change elements of the show that contradict some really interesting character dynamics. Like take Barney for example, how in the episode Star of the Backstage, he forgot sleeping with a newly introduced girl, Sasha, in high school because he was too drunk to remember, or it's implied that way. But the show established that Barney was a bright, straight-A student and only had his first beer on the night before the SATs. Sure, that's probably a nitpick and I'll happily admit that it is, but every drop of ink on a piece of paper will add more and more of a noticeable stain until it blots out the entire page. This can be seen with how The Simpsons have now effectively made Homer and Marge into millennials.
Millennials have a beige, sanitized aesthetic, but they think they're quirky because they shop in Urban Outfitters and have no idea how to be a real adult.
And in turn now changes other aspects of characters, like is Abe Simpson still a World War II vet? Retcons after retcon. To be fair, this isn't a new phenomenon. I recall that the episode That 90s Show back in 2008 got a fair bit of pushback. The episode with young adult Homer being the inspiration for grunge and Nirvana. But you get this timey-wimey BS that if you think about previous episodes, things just crash into each other. For example, nowadays Homer was born in 1984, meaning he would have been 1 year old during his tenure with the B Sharps, which the episode explicitly dates to 1985. And a year younger than Lisa, who we're told was born in 1983 in Lisa's first word. Why even bother having backstory if everything can change and move on with the timeline? It feels superficial when the writers are trying to make things relevant and write any sort of modern day trend, especially when a lot of the audience who watched The Simpsons back in the earlier seasons are now reaching the ages of Marge and Homer. Another element that contributed to this is that I do not find The Simpsons to be all that entertaining, comical, or even all that smart with its comedy. To clarify, I'm willing to admit that this is probably due to me changing as a person, and that the show has changed as well. Nowadays, most I can really recall is stuff like the Death Note spoof, or the song about middle class, which I can't stand considering the irony of being performed by people who don't have to actually worry about those sorts of things, as well as them being owned by a massive corporation. Hell, there are things such as the showrunner of The Simpsons putting out a tweet that showed Martin Prince being an adult undercover as a student, and people running to the conclusion that the show was ruined because of it. The reason why I take issue with this sort of thing is that in all honesty, since the show has been willing to rewrite characters' past so easily, that this thing could realistically happen. After all, you're willing to change characters' past to have something like Krusty the Clown be attracted to Marge and even kill Homer over it. Why wouldn't people be willing to believe that these characters would be changed into something more outlandish? Even watching some of the newer episodes in season 35, I've honestly just found myself going through the motions, especially when there are some jokes that just miss the mark or just don't work for me.
That is what would have happened had Homer not turned the valve off.
What the f*** is this piece of shit?
Look, I don't say this to put down modern day Simpsons. That's the last thing I want to do with this video. If anything, I wanted to give my own perspective on how one could fall out of a series. From time to time, I'll return to The Simpsons just to see what's going on for a few episodes, and after a while, I'll get tired of all the attempts of humor, and while there are moments of characterization that did catch my attention at times, and I'll even admit there are episodes I do like the future episodes where we see The Simpsons more or less actually matured, it's not enough for me to really stay with the series, and it's not due to the show's quality. Well, not a big part of it anyway. As I get older, I learn and mature from my own life experiences and from what stories I enjoy in my pastime. I've come to realize that The Simpsons can be good for the occasional laugh and heartwarming story if the characters are just going to be warped and changed to fit the times at the cost of their histories. Histories that are the core of what makes a character you love. And that being discarded, it doesn't appeal to me. I don't know if others feel the way the same I do, but to me it's not a matter of The Simpsons have died or that they're suddenly great again. Rather, it's that I've taken a different path from The Simpsons and they don't appeal to me. I've grown past my love for The Simpsons, and to be honest, I feel like a part of my life has faded away. I've given the show more and more chances, but they don't really connect with me. Not like the past episodes have, and the ones that I do find myself liking, I know that those moments more than likely won't matter. It's the nature of a show like this, and I think a show like this won't have lasting appeal to everyone if it continues on and on like The Simpsons had, at least to me. I'm MangaKamen, and thank you for your time.